What's going on, Rebel fans? It's Billy Kuehl, Parks Bertram, and Cam Wicker back with another episode of the Reb Talk. And it's time to focus on the main thing and keeping it the main thing. Back to real football talk. No more coaching, maybe at the end, just for future reference. But we're going to start off today going over the Mississippi State game where Ole Miss took away the dub in a pretty convincing fashion. Offense looked great. Defense held it together. There's definitely some notes there, but Parks, Cam, what do you guys have on this game this weekend on Friday?
I think Ole Miss showed their offensive firepower for the most part. I mean, Trinidad Chambers probably had his best game of the season outside of that debut game where he kind of shocked the world against Arkansas. He had his best 4 quarters of football. I mean, we saw 3 great quarters of football against Georgia, and if he puts the last together, Ole Miss is 12-0. But as far as a 4-quarter game, this probably was the best 4-quarter game from Trinidad Chambers. 359 yards, 4 touchdowns. And he probably has over 400 yards if he hits Winston Watkins on like 2 or 3 of those deep balls that he overthrew at one point, and those were probably touchdowns too. I like the offense right now. I think the offense, we'll see what it looks like once playoff time rolls around, like we talked about a little bit before the pod. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't think the offense will change as far as style. It's kind of too late to do that. But maybe whoever's calling plays, Joe Judge or whoever else on that staff will be calling plays. We'll probably switch some things up as far as what plays are called. Maybe the tempo of the game a little bit, slow it down a little bit, maybe at times. But we'll see. Keywan Lacey obviously did his thing, and then Deuce Alexander with the dagger at the end of the game. And I think Parks talked about it in the live stream yesterday, but or before at some point. Deshaun Stribling looked outstanding in that game, and he's really turned it on at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's just pretty much what I think about it too. I think Trinidad, like you said, if he gets a couple of them deep balls, throws over 400 yards, and possibly 5 or 6 touchdowns. Like insane game. I just think the offense all around was great. I really liked what I saw for the defense. For the most part, there was obviously some things that needs to be cleaned up still, but I feel like we've been saying that all season long with this defense. Who really stuck out to me was Emmanuel. I mean, he had an awesome game, but yeah, that's just all I got there for them.
I agree too. Going back to the offense and Trinidad and everything, I have his stats pulled up on my notes. 23 to 34 for 359 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Parks kind of touched on this yesterday in the live stream. I loved what he did with his legs. He did not have a lot of yards or any touchdowns on the ground like we're used to seeing from him when he does utilize his legs, but he used them in such great ways in the short yardage, diving for first downs, just getting a couple, no negative plays too. Big shout out to the offensive line, Trinidad and Keywan for that, because they kept the plays alive and everything went forward, and that's what I think made the offense so good this week.
Absolutely. I think that's been great all year. I mean, Trinidad, for the most part, has been one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the SEC. And that's for 2 things. That's the offensive line steadily improving game by game. John Garrison, who we don't know what's going to happen with him, but he's done a great job getting that unit together. At the start of the season, when Simmons was playing quarterback, you kind of wondered if that was the worst part of this team, was that offensive line. Then Trinidad steps in there. The offensive line improves. Trinidad obviously is really good at avoiding sacks, and if there's anything that's going to get Trinidad drafted, if he ends up getting drafted this year, not getting a waiver, it's being able to keep plays alive, not get sacked, not turn over the ball. Whether it's his accuracy or his size that downs his grade in the draft, I think Trinidad is one of the best in the nation at avoiding sacks. And I mean, I've talked about it with several people. I mean, Trinidad's probably a Heisman front runner if he plays the first 2 games of the season.
I completely agree. And to go on to what you guys said earlier about Stribling, I mean, he looked like an absolute monster out there. And that's kind of what we were expecting to get right off the get-go. But it's great to see that he's really settled in, even if it is late. What if he's just getting hot at the right time? He has a big playoff. You never know. But also in the receiver room, 7 different guys had a catch on Friday, and that's just a common theme we've seen this year. So many guys getting targets. I mean, Caden Lee had 7 receptions, which feels like a team season high. But everyone else out there too, I mean, Keywan out of the backfield, Daquan Wright, Caleb Odom, tight ends, wide receiver. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to get a touch in this offense, and I think that's what makes it so great. Moving on to the defense. The defensive line looked great once again.
Yes.
Back to 5 TFLs out of them. And I'll give that to the front seven too, because I think Daugherty got in the backfield once or twice, Andrew Jones as well. What do you guys have on the defense? Really zeroing in on that.
I think, like we said after the game, when Evie asked us for our, immediate takeaways, that front seven is capable of winning a championship if they can get together in the secondary. I mean, we'll have to, like we've said in the last 24 hours, we'll have to see what this team looks like without the assistant coaches out there. But for the most part, every defensive assistant, I think, has returned to this team. And I think they're going to be fired up. I mean, these defensive guys have pretty much lived and died by Pete Golding, and they're going to be fired up knowing that he's their head coach. And they're really good. On Friday in that Egg Bowl, I think Prince Will really stood out like he's been doing in the late half of the season. I think he leads the team in sacks, about 6.5 or 7 around there, getting up there with his brother in that category. And maybe he returns for a senior season. I think he's a junior, correct? So, I mean, maybe he even returns for a senior year. Suntrain Perkins kind of really turned it on in that game, and Will Eccles as well with the Mississippi guys. And for the most part, that secondaries looked bad most of the year. It's kind of hard to follow up a Trey Amos that had last year, a lockdown corner. There hasn't really been a guy like that this year. Jalen Braxton has failed to be that guy for the most part for Ole Miss this year. Missed some games early and couldn't get really going on the field. But Wyatt Williams Jr. has been the bright spot in that secondary all season long. He's deflected passes, leads the team in interceptions, and at some point, probably if you want to keep winning in the playoffs, you might want to consider bringing him down to be a slot corner and not over the top as a safety.
Yeah, I like everything Cam said. I feel like he's someone who did get overlooked after this game is Wyatt. Because I mean, you look at a couple of them pass breakups, especially towards the end of the game. There, I mean, he got beat on a run there and still made it and still stopped the pass from being caught. So, I mean, he doesn't give up on a play. I'll give him that. That was incredible to see.
That's one of the best. That's one of the best defensive recoveries I've seen in a long time. Yeah. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane in person. So, yeah, I just agree with everything that Cam just said about that.
Watching it on the TV was like, oh, he's wide open. Like, I thought Wyatt was way too far behind, at least from the broadcast angle. So when he got his arm in there, I was visibly shocked.
I also think much like Alabama, Ole Miss has struggled against a dual threat quarterback, a true dual threat quarterback. Obviously, John Mateer was one of those guys that you shut down, but he was coming off an injury. So no telling what he was going to look like in that game. But you shut him down in that game for the most part, running the football. Was not the case on Friday. Kamario Taylor's a dog. They got a good one in Starkville and Kamario Taylor. If they can, I mean, that's a blank check that you give him at the end of the season, and let him do what he wants with that. But 20 carries for him, 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I mean, that one touchdown run that he had where he just made the secondary look stupid. I mean, there's nothing really you can do about that. That's just an athlete making plays. Kamario Taylor's a running back when he has the ball, and I was calling him baby Cam Newton on Friday night. I mean, that's a big guy. I think he gained like 30, 40 pounds after he got to state too. So he puts in the work, and he seemed pretty comfortable in that Jeff Levy offense. It's just something that I think Ole Miss is going to have to work on. Taylon Green kind of torched that defense early in the season, running the ball around. Ole Miss couldn't get a pass rush on them. If you play a dual threat quarterback in that first game of the season like Dante Moore or CJ Carr, it might be tough.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Kamario looked great, like you said. Like, that's a blank check guy. The offensive line even helped him out a lot. I thought he had a lot of time, and that says something because our pass rush was there all day. I still think he had a lot of time to get off, and even when stuff wasn't going his way, he was like, "Oh, I get to run the ball. Cool. I'm gonna go." He looked so comfortable. Did he finish with more rushing yards? Do you have that up?
He had 173.
Yeah, so
wow. More than 30 more than Keywan?
Jeez, that's ridiculous.
I mean, they ran for 262 yards as a team. Fluff Bothwell also really good game from him.
Yes.
He's a really physical running back as well. That kind of added to what Kamario Taylor was doing on the ground.
Yeah, and then to go back onto the Ole Miss side, I mean, like you guys brought it up, the Mississippi guys, my X factor was Centarian Perkins going into the game. I was like, it's the Mississippi kids. They chose to be at Ole Miss. This means more to them. And that's kind of exactly what we saw. A lot of the Mississippi kids were running around, having great games. So, do you guys have anything else before we move on?
I think the best part about that game, seeing that Ole Miss team bring that Egg Bowl trophy back onto the field. I mean that video where Tom Luke's coming out of the tunnel at Mississippi State's athletic facility and handing Suntarine Perkins, the Mississippi kid, the Egg Bowl trophy, and seeing how many Ole Miss fans were there. I mean, I know Parks was at the game,
Yeah.
probably do a little bit more justice, but I mean, it seemed like 10,000 or more Ole Miss fans there. And when Deuce caught that pass, there was a crowd pop. There was a crowd pop.
Yeah.
You don't usually hear a crowd pop at an away game. So I think Ole Miss fans traveled well. That's a good sign going to the playoffs, especially if you have to hit the road or if you win in round one and go to one of these bowl game sites. These Ole Miss fans are going to travel well, and I think they're going to travel even more well now this what's happened with this team so far.
And my last thing before we head on over to the future is we have to give the special team some love. Lucas Carnero missed one early, but he settled in, kept his focus the rest of the game. He looked fine. And I've been saying it all year for those who've listened to this podcast. Oscar Bird is a damn elite punter. He genuinely changed field position and put the Ole Miss defense in such great positions. All three of his punts should have been inside the 15 with that one weird bounce and going into the end zone. A bit unlucky for TJ Banks down there covering it. Could he have done things better? Yeah, but it's also that ball died and then rolled right underneath him like a baseball. So Oscar Bird once again helping us out, elite. But going on to the college football playoffs, where do you guys think we stand when the rankings come out tomorrow night?
I think around anywhere from where Ole Miss should be, 5 or 6, where they should be. I mean, where I think they will be, I think they're going to be 7 or 8. I think that's just how it's going to be. I think that's how the committee's going to look at it. You lost your head coach, you lost your play caller, you lost some other assistants. I think the committee's going to take that into question and how this team will perform in the playoffs. But the argument of Ole Miss missing the playoffs is just ridiculous. It would be a travesty for the sport. And I have no I'm not going to deny that I'm an Ole Miss homer. I mean, I'm a graduate. I got Ole Miss stuff on the walls. I wear Ole Miss clothes all the time. I'm not going to deny that I'm a homer. But if I was watching this happen to another team and people were arguing that you're going to keep an 11-1 SEC team out of the playoffs that's only losses to number 5 Georgia in Athens, and it was by 1 score, I mean, come on, man. Like, what are we doing?
A team that's going to the SEC championship game is the higher seed.
Yeah. I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, it's not that same circumstance. It's not a 14 playoff like the Florida State time was. And I mean, I thought it was a travesty they missed the playoffs. I mean, they obviously didn't look great without Jordan Travis, but they had some other guys opt out. Ole Miss hasn't had any guys opt out, and for the most part, the players seem pretty fired up behind Pete Golding. So I mean, if you give this team a chance in the playoffs, and especially if you give them a chance against Tulane again, or Virginia, or whoever wins the ACC, I mean, you can line it up 3 times in a row, and Ole Miss is going to win that game. So I think it will be a travesty for Ole Miss to miss the playoffs, but I think it will be even more disappointing for them to not get a home playoff game like they deserve to.
Yeah, I think it'll be an injustice if they miss the playoffs just because our head coach is no longer here. Like, I mean, we're 11-1. Come on, guys. Like, there's no logical reasoning behind any team that's 11-1 that should be left out, especially an SEC team. Where I think we should be, I agree with Cam, 5 or 6, but it'll probably be, I imagine that 7 spot's probably where they're going to put us because of people leaving. And like Cam said, Tulane, Virginia, any team like that, Ole Miss needs to play. We'll probably play them, and will dominate anytime they play. And so I think Ole Miss deserves a home playoff game. These players, the staff that's still here, Pete Golding, the fans deserve a home playoff game after this historic season, with or without Kiffin. So
I completely agree. You know, all of us think here it would be a travesty, an injustice, whatever word you can think of that's bad. is what it would describe not only if they don't have a home playoff game, if they miss the playoffs. If they miss the playoffs, there will probably be riots in Oxford. If they don't have a home game, it'll be pretty damn close to riots. Because I don't know if people keep up with them or not. If you look at the games that Ole Miss has played, they either find a way to win a game or they blow a team out. It would be ridiculous to leave them out, especially because the strength of schedule as well. They have played some of the upper echelon teams in the SEC, and this is no shot at A&M. Their first high pressure game was LSU, who had just fired Brian Kelly, or was this right before? I forget the timeline.
LSU fired Kelly when they got blown out by Texas A&M. So what was that? I mean, almost a month ago by now.
Yeah. So that was their first high pressure game, and then their real high pressure game was against Texas, and they lost. That's the only upper echelon SEC team at the end of the season that they played, and they lost. So it's just, I don't know. And Ole Miss has gone to Georgia, gone to Oklahoma, hosted LSU early in the year when everything was going right for them. It just doesn't seem remotely possible that they don't have a home playoff game or anything like that.
Well, the resume for Ole Miss right now looks better than Texas A&M. I mean,
100%.
The AP poll, I think, behind Ole Miss too. I mean, the AP poll doesn't matter. Let's see what it comes out tomorrow. But I think A&M went to 7 and Ole Miss went to 6 in the AP poll. So I mean, who are you going to throw in if you take Ole Miss completely out of the playoffs? I mean, who are you going to put Miami in there? Miami outside of that those front 5 on the offensive line and the 4 on the defensive line. I mean, Miami just doesn't look good. And they can lose to anybody at any point. I mean, you're going to throw Utah in there?
BYU.
I mean, you could throw Vanderbilt in there, but if you're going to throw Vanderbilt in there, Ole Miss better be in there too. And I don't really think there's an argument for Texas. That's a team that Mississippi State took to overtime. That's a team that Kentucky took to overtime. That's a team that Florida beat. I mean, what are you going to do?
I was out that Texas-Mississippi State game, and State lost that game themselves. You miss how many tackles? You don't have the right punt coverage out there to inevitably tie the game. They had copious amounts of penalties go against them, and they were all legit watching it in the stadium and seeing the replays. Tugs on jerseys, face masks, anything. So I kind of agree with you. You can't put Texas in there, at least in my opinion. But anything else on that from you guys, or should we move on to possible offensive coordinator replacements for Charlie Wise? Which, honestly, I was torn 50-50 on if he was going to leave or not. I had personally had a Bible study where he came and spoke, and it was kind of the same thing as the Kiffin thing, where it was kind of like how he came here, he was like, this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere. I love this place and everything. And I have no diss on Charlie. He's a great individual, a great human being. He's really nice and respectful to everyone that came through, took time out of his day to even be there. But I was kind of surprised to see him get on the plane.
Yeah, I'm as someone who hasn't really enjoyed the Charlie Wise offense, I wasn't sad to see him get on that plane. But for the most part, I am kind of shocked that he hasn't looked for himself another job by now. He's probably a guy. I mean, he's in his early 30s probably. He's probably a guy that could land a Power 5 job at a small. I mean, not a Power 5, a G5 school, a smaller G5 school, maybe like somewhere, whether it's like ULM or UTEP or Sam Houston, somewhere like that. He could probably land a job somewhere as a head coach at one of those. But I mean, if he thinks that he can go to LSU with Kiffin and win a championship, I think that's the reason why he got on that plane is because he wants to experience something like that. But like I said, it wasn't really no love lost from me watching him get on that plane. We'll have to see what this offensive coordinator thing's looking like for Pete going into the next year. But for right now, I'm assuming it's going to be Joe Judge calling the plays on the sidelines. Joe Judge, former head coach of the New York Giants, did not look great 2 years he was there. You can go back and watch some plays. There's one play where he's on the 7-yard line and they run a tush push.
No, they were on their own inside the 5.
They run a tush push from it was 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10. It was bad. Granted, that was the year that Saquon Barkley just like missed the entire season, and they were down their best player. The year before that, Saquon rushed for 1,000 yards, and Daniel Jones had his best season statistics wise that year that Joe Judge first came into the Giants. They still missed the
That
playoffs.
was a tough time to be there too. Not
Yeah.
like it was just Saquon and
Yeah.
a young Daniel Jones
Yeah, no
in the New York market. And obviously I've had my share at MetLife. It's not a great place to be. I'm gonna be honest. I watched the Jets game this weekend against the Falcons and you could hear a pin drop. And that doesn't just go for the Jets fans. This is the first time I've seen excitement in that stadium in a long time, except for 2022 when the Giants made the playoffs. So I give Joe Judge slack on that.
I didn't care for the guy. So I'm okay with Joe Judge doing his thing now. So that's all I really have to say on it because I just didn't care for the other guy.
And anybody have an offensive coach replacement? Cam, I know you touched on it a little bit before.
Yeah, Jerry Neuschel, I can't really pronounce his last name. UCLA kid, blonde hair, young guy. Like I said before the podcast, man, it's a guy that played for UCLA, and I think he won a big game versus Texas against UCLA and was carried off the field or something crazy like that back in the day. So it's probably gonna be hard to pluck him away from there.
Carried off this year too.
Yeah, carried him off this year too. Same fashion, except as the coach, as the offensive coordinator. What for weeks everyone thought he was the head coach because they weren't showing the head coach until they lost the game with UCLA. But I think that's probably one of my favorite targets that you can go after. Realistic targets. John David Baker, former Ole Miss guy. You probably bring him in. I'm sure Pete probably has some guys that he's connected with and has worked with in the past that he's going to call up. But yeah, UCLA kid off the top of my head is probably my favorite target right now.
TJ shouted out John David Baker, and I was like, who in the world is this guy? and I said it in the group chat, made myself look like an idiot. I'll shout that one out. But looking into it, I think he's perfectly right. I like what John David Baker's been doing at East Carolina. I have a friend that goes there, and they're like, I love going to football games. And I was just like, at ECU? And looking into it, I understand why. He looks great over there, and I would have no problem bringing him back to Ole Miss, back to Oxford.
Yeah, I like what both y'all said. I like both of those picks to come in next year. I think those both would be really well and fit with Ole Miss and the way the offense has been.
Another thing I could see us doing is, what if Mike McDaniel or one of the offensive guys in the NFL gets fired? They don't have a job because they haven't been doing great recently. They gotta reset themselves back in college like a lot of coaches do. What is the problem with bringing one of them in? Not one.
I think if we're being honest, I would not be surprised if Keith and Pete make a splash hire. I mean, like someone with a bigger name, maybe a former head coach, maybe an NFL guy, whoever it is. I mean, there was a report. I'm not sure how true it was, but that they were going to double the pay of the offensive staff to stay. So I mean, I'm sure Keith and Pete are willing to make a splash hire to keep this program afloat next year. I mean, Pete really has never really had anything to do with offense, and his coach defense his entire career, played defense at Delta State, and he's probably going to have a heavy dose of that heavy hand in that next year, whether he hires a defense coordinator or not, which I'm sure he will hire a defensive coordinator or promote one within, maybe someone like Randall Joyner or someone like that, who's probably the favorite to do that. But I could see a splash hire. I could see an NFL guy. I could see a former former college coach that's been fired recently just come in and Pete and Keith do the thing and give them a lot of money.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add? All right. Well, there you guys have it. Went over the game, college football playoffs, which are super exciting. Can't wait to see those rankings come out tomorrow and inevitably wherever Ole Miss and the entire college football playoff stands. Always an exciting time around this time of year. But Without that, as always, hotty toddy, go Rebs. We'll see you guys next time.